Here we go again with these post-apocalyptic young adult film adaptations. The Maze Runner, released in 2014 and is directed by Wes Ball, who's behind such films like The Maze Runner, The Scorch Trials, and Maze Runner: The Death Cure. It's a pretty cut and dry filmography you got there, Wes. But there is something to be said about the same director staying on for a trilogy or a series of movies. I kind of like it, at least up to a point, because you get the same continuity and the same style throughout, a trilogy or a series of films. And this film is starring Dylan O'Brien, Thomas Brody-Sangster, who will always look like he's 12 years old, and Will Poulter, who is always an asshole in movies. A teenager by the name of Thomas awakes to find himself in a strange, desolate forest land, which is inhabited by a bunch of other male teenagers. Having no memory of who he is or how he got there, he realizes that this habitat is enclosed by a gigantic wall all the way around in every direction, except for a small opening in the wall that opens every single day. And what happens is there's like a select few of these boys that are elected to go and run through this opening, which apparently opens it up for this maze. Hence, Maze Runner. It's actually a very literal title. There's a lot of questions that I have, and really that's all this movie is. It's these teenagers asking a lot of questions, which there is a certain intrigue when we get to that plot device. So we, the audience, what's happening? Who are these people? It's nice to have a character like Thomas that we can connect to because he knows nothing, we know nothing. He's our window into this world and this situation. It does get to a point where you go, would you stop asking questions and just go and do things? For example, that's really like my only beef with the movie The Matrix. Neo's character asks so many freaking questions. What? Who? What does that mean? What? Where are we going? What is that? Dude, just shut up for like 10 seconds and you'll get your answer just automatically. You don't have to keep asking what, who, when, why, how. For the first half of this movie, it's basically that, which, like I said, is okay to start off with, but eventually these characters gotta start doing things. And Thomas actually starts doing things, which makes him kind of the standout and makes him different from all these other teenage boys. All these teenagers have come to this place not knowing who they are or how they got there, but they're coexisting. They're creating their own habitat, their own culture, their own society, and it's working pretty well. They got their own set of rules, they have living arrangements, they have ways to produce food. Things are going okay, considering the situation. So when Thomas comes in, starts asking all of these questions, and not conforming to the rules that this society has created for themselves, they start, or at least part of them, start to not like him and start to want to punish him. Will Poulter being the main catalyst for that. Or Will Poulter, he's probably like the coolest guy in real life, and he's a really good actor. I don't think I've disliked him in anything that he's done, but he always plays a prick. It's his face. It's the eyebrows. They're always pointing down. It's very Vulcan-like. He just looks like a dick. Plays well for him. You're an actor. You play to your strengths. You play to how you look. Yeah, you'll get hired a lot more. And heck, look at Thomas Brody-Sangster. That guy looks like a 12-year-old, and he's probably like, what, 30? Yeah, he's 29 right now. He's a little younger than me. That face looks like he's 10 or 11, which is really jarring because I would see him in films like Tristan and Isolde. He was on HBO and his voice was much higher, but now that his face hasn't changed at all, it's still this little boyish face, but his voice has gotten much deeper, and I'm an authoritative figure now. It's so weird. It doesn't work at all. But this film is another one in the giant craze of young adult novels that take place in the not too distant future, but it's some type of post-apocalyptic where there's this overseeing government and there's a desolate wasteland. Another one of those books and films. And just like the majority of those franchises, the first installment is actually pretty intriguing. I get behind it. I want to see where it goes. Unfortunately for a lot of them, by the final installment or the end of the trilogy or quad trilogy, you know, the films that were supposed to be a trilogy, but then they split the last one up into 2 different films, so now they got 4 or 5 different movies. They tend to not do so well, but from what I've heard, I haven't seen any of the other Maze Runner films, but from what I've heard, the third one, at least the third one, is fantastic. It's probably the best in the series. So eventually I gotta get around to that one. But starting off here, I remember the first time watching this movie. I was over at a friend's house, and all of us were hanging out, and we were tired of playing, you know, board games, video games. We're kind of just all sitting there in the living room, flipping through the channels, and all of a sudden Maze Runner pops up, and I said, you know what, I haven't seen it. And everyone else was like, well, I guess we'll watch it for Caleb. And by the end of the movie, I'm sitting there on the edge of my seat. I'm wanting to see, okay, what's happening? What the heck's going on? I'm looking at the screen like, oh boy, I'm so entertained right now. And everyone else fell asleep. It reminded me of my childhood, because that would happen so much growing up. I'd be watching movies, and my parents or the rest of my family would be... And that's how you get to watch some pretty adult content without people knowing. That's how people are brought up, right? I like the concept of this franchise. I like not knowing what exactly is happening. I like, you know, thinking that, okay, there is some terror out there in this maze that eventually we have to get past. So you're asking yourself questions: what are these creatures? How did they come to be here? How did these characters come to be here? And how do they get out? I like it. I like it a lot. Now, the problem with most of these young adult franchises is that the creators, the writers of the books, and the directors and the studios are thinking, okay, we're setting up multiple different movies in this franchise. So that's going to be our prime objective, is to set up the next one so that people come back. Which shouldn't be the mindset when it comes to creating a movie at all. One singular movie should stand by itself. It should have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Yes, we can have a little tiny tag or a cliffhanger at the end of it to keep us intrigued and bring us back, but your movie's got to have some type of climax and some type of ending to make the audience satisfied, at least for now. This movie doesn't have that. The characters are trying to find their way out, and they get to a certain point, and the movie basically just ends. They throw out a couple of characters and plot devices at you, which turn out to be absolutely bullshit, and the final line of the movie, I am not joking, okay, so the maze was a success. Now, it's time for phase 2. They're not even hiding from it. They're basically saying like, yep, so this movie was pretty good. Now come back next time on Maze Runner Scorch Trials. Same maze time, same maze channel. Don't do that. Come on. I guess it's okay now because I haven't seen any of the other 2 films, so I could just go right into watching them. But think about back in 2014. This movie comes out, and you have to wait probably another 2 years. I don't know when the second one came out, but probably another 2 years for the sequel to happen. Does this movie do enough to keep you intrigued and hooks you enough to want to come back? I think it probably barely does, but again, I wish I would have had just a nice satisfying ending and then a short little cliffhanger. Maybe I'm thinking of just too much procedural TV, where we have a beginning, middle, and end, and then we have a tag at the very end of the episode that brings us back for the next one. Maybe I'm just thinking too much into that, I don't know, but I think it definitely works, and it would have worked here. It probably would have worked better if they would have done something like that, but nope, they just go right into the story with no climax, but we'll see what happens in the second one. I still think it's a nice starting point, and I'm still intrigued to watch the rest of this trilogy. I'm probably going to do it just on my own, because I want to know what happens. I'm going to give The Maze Runner 4 out of 5 Blu-rays.
I like it a lot.
Alright everyone, now comes my favorite part in my videos, where I pick which movie I'm going to be watching next. The next one comes as a recommendation from one of my subscribers, Rusted Beetle. You recommended Stranger Than Fiction. One of those Will Ferrell movies that I have never watched, because I heard that it actually wasn't that funny. And growing up, Will Ferrell was the funny guy. And I want to see the funny people do funny things. I don't want to see them branch off into drama. Now, being older, of course, I absolutely love it when comedians go the dramatic route, because I think comedians make better actors than just straight dramatic actors, because comedians, they have to know timing and things like that. I always like giving comedians a chance when it comes to drama. I don't know about the masses, that's probably not true about the masses, but I personally love it when a comedic actor tries to go, straight and tragic and dramatic for a while. So I'm excited to check that one out. Thank you very much for the recommendation. If any of you have recommendations of films that you want me to review on here, leave your comment below this video, or go to my Facebook page, my Instagram, or my Twitter, and leave your recommendation there, and if I have access to it, I will watch, review it, and give you a shout out on the channel. So guys, have you seen The Maze Runner? What did you think about it? Where does it fit in your ranking of the Maze Runner trilogy? Is it the top? Is it at the bottom? Where does it sit for you? Comment below, let me know what you thought about it. And if you like what you saw here, if you like my take on movies, hit the subscribe button, bring your friends, bring your family members over here if they love hearing people talk about movies, have them subscribe too, and remember to hit the bell so you know the next time I'm releasing my next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time with my review of Stranger Than Fiction. So in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.